There are 5 specific hours when the veil between realms becomes impenetrable, when no spell can penetrate, no curse can land, no assignment can be released. I learned this the hard way, standing in circles I can't unsee, speaking words I can't unspeak. We tracked your patterns. We waited for your weak moments. But when you entered those hours fasting, everything we sent bounced back. The spirits would literally recoil. It wasn't the fasting itself. It was what the fasting opened and what it closed. Let me show you what we feared most. They don't teach you this in church because most churches don't understand the warfare happening in frequencies you can't see. When I was practicing, we operated on timelines, not your timeline, the one where you check your phone and go to work and think everything is normal. I'm talking about the timeline where agreements are made, territories are assigned, and access is granted or denied based on what you do in the physical realm. Fasting was the one thing we genuinely feared. Not prayer alone, not worship alone. Fasting, because fasting creates a gap, a literal absence where your flesh used to be loud. And in that gap, something ancient wakes up. Your spirit starts overriding your body's frequency. You stop broadcasting on channels we could monitor. Here's what they won't tell you. There are 5 hours that act as spiritual amplifiers, not because they're magic, but because they align with how the unseen realm operates. These aren't random, they're architectural. The first hour is 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. This is when most practitioners do their heaviest work, because most humans are unconscious, unguarded, defenseless. But if you're awake and fasting during this hour, we couldn't touch you. The attacks we sent would circle back. It was like trying to throw water at a mirror. Everything reflected. The second hour is 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. as dawn, the shift between darkness and light. When you fast during this transition hour, you're telling the spiritual realms, I'm aligned with the light. We hated dawn fasters. They were untouchable. Every curse we crafted would dissolve before reaching them. The third hour is 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. as midday, when the sun is highest. This is when your spiritual authority is supposed to be loudest, but most people are eating, distracted, weakened by routine. If you fast here, you're taking back ground we've held for years. The fourth hour is 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. dusk. Another transition, light surrendering to dark. If you're fasting here, you're declaring ownership of the night before it even starts. We'd have to abandon assignments entirely. The fifth hour is 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. This is the hour of preparation. What happens in the next few hours? Your sleep, your dreams, your subconscious gets decided here. Fasting during this hour is like locking every door before an intruder even arrives. Here's the part that broke me and led me out. We knew this worked. We saw it work. We'd gather, we'd chant, we'd call on entities that responded to everyone else, but not to the ones fasting during these hours. And the questions started eating at me. if what I'm doing can be stopped by someone simply not eating for a few hours and praying, how powerful am I really? Or am I just exploiting people who don't know the rules? The rules are simple. The execution is hard, because fasting isn't about starving yourself. It's about starving what's attached to you. It's about creating silence where there used to be noise. And in that silence, you'll hear things, see things, understand things. The enemy's greatest weapon isn't power. It's your ignorance of how power actually works. These 5 hours aren't magic. They're strategy, they're warfare. They're taking back territory 1 hour at a time. And once you start doing this consistently, you won't need me to tell you it works. You'll feel the shift. You'll notice the attacks stop landing. You'll see the patterns break. Because you finally learned to fight in the realm where the real war has always been happening. When I was practicing, 3 a.m. wasn't chosen randomly. It's the hour when human consciousness is at its lowest frequency. Your body is in deep sleep cycles. Your mind is unguarded. Your spirit is disconnected from your awareness. This is when we'd strike. We called it the witching hour for a reason. Between 3 and 4 a.m., the veil is thinnest, but not in the way people romantically think. It's thin because most humans are spiritually unconscious. We had clear access. Assignments moved freely. Curses landed easily. But when someone was awake and fasting during this hour, everything reversed. Instead of being vulnerable, they became fortified. The same thin veil that gave us access suddenly blocked us out. Their spiritual alertness during the hour of collective unconsciousness created a barrier we couldn't penetrate. 6 to 7 a.m. works similarly. It's a transition point, darkness surrendering to light. If you're fasting during this shift, you're spiritually declaring allegiance to the light. You're standing at the gate between realms and saying, nothing dark passes here. Dusk, 6 to 7 p.m., is the opposite transition, light surrendering to darkness. Fasting here means you're claiming authority over the night before it even begins. You're preemptively shutting down what would typically activate after sunset. These aren't symbolic hours, they're tactical windows, and the enemy knows it. Noon is spiritually significant in ways most people completely miss. When the sun reaches its highest point, there's a reason ancient spiritual systems, both light and dark, marked this moment. It represents peak power, maximum visibility, complete exposure. In the dark arts, we avoided midday for heavy work. Too much light, too much resistance. The entities we worked with preferred shadows, transitions in between spaces. High noon was hostile territory for darkness. But here's what shocked me. Most believers surrender this hour to lunch breaks and work distractions, the exact moment when their spiritual authority should be loudest. They're eating, scrolling, completely disengaged from the battle happening around them. When you fast from 12 to 1 p.m., you're doing something revolutionary. You're staying spiritually engaged During the hour of maximum light, you're telling the demonic realms, I'm not checked out. I'm not distracted. I'm fully present and fully armored at the peak of the day. We used to count on believers being weakest at their strongest hour. Comfort makes people spiritually lazy. But fasting during midday breaks that pattern. It says, I'm not living by comfort. I'm living by strategy. This single hour, consistently fasted and prayed through, can break assignments that have been running for years. Because you're finally awake when you're supposed to be most powerful. Most spiritual warfare happens while you're asleep, and you don't even know it. Your dreams aren't just random images, they're a battlefield. I used to send assignments specifically designed to infiltrate dreams, plant fears, twist memories, and corrupt subconscious beliefs. The hour before deep sleep, 9 to 10 p.m., is when your conscious mind starts releasing control and your subconscious begins taking over. This handoff is a vulnerability window. It's the moment when spiritual doors that were locked during the day can crack open if you're not careful. When you fast during this hour, you're essentially performing a security lockdown before the night shift begins. You're praying over your sleep, sealing your dreams, and setting boundaries around your subconscious mind. We absolutely hated when people did this because it meant we couldn't get in. Dreams are where seeds get planted, seeds of doubt, lust, fear, confusion, deception. If we couldn't access your dreams, we couldn't plant anything. And if we couldn't plant anything, you'd wake up clear, minded, spiritually sharp, emotionally stable. Fasting this hour isn't about the food you're avoiding. It's about the ground you're protecting. It's about saying, my mind is not a playground for demons while I sleep. And when you do this consistently, you'll notice something powerful. Your dreams change. The nightmares stop. The clarity comes back. You wake up rested instead of drained. Here's what they don't teach in spiritual warfare classes. The demonic realm operates on frequencies. They monitor you the way intelligence agencies monitor communications. Your flesh, your appetites, your emotions, your reactions, broadcasts constantly. And they're listening. When I was practicing, we could read people, not their thoughts, but their spiritual frequency. Someone living by their flesh, constantly feeding desires, reacting emotionally, enslaved to appetites, was broadcasting loud and clear. We knew exactly where they were spiritually. We knew their weak points. We knew when to strike. But fasting does something that genuinely terrified us. It creates silence. When you deny your flesh, you stop broadcasting on the frequencies we monitored. It's like you disappeared from our radar. We'd send attacks and they'd find nothing, no signal, no target. In that silence, your spirit starts rising. You begin operating on a frequency we couldn't access. Not because we weren't powerful enough, but because you'd moved into a realm we were locked out of. This is why consistent fasting breaks generational curses, why it shatters addictions, why it stops attacks that seemed unstoppable. You're not fighting harder, you're fighting smarter. You've created a gap between your flesh and your spirit, and in that gap, you've become untouchable. The enemy can't hit what he can't detect.